list of problems had reached a new low.
Incredible. I just can't believe it.
And the final drama of the day would also take place on the public roads around Athens. Sebastian Loeb had punctured in the final stage of the day. With his spare already used, he was forced to drag his Citroën Zara back to service. The wheel was falling apart, and the rest of the car was following it. But the car just about lasted out for Loeb to make it back to service in time. And in the 45 minutes available, his team rebuilt the car. He incurred no time penalties, and following Solberg's problems, was now in second place. Day 3 got off to a lively start, with both Red Bull Skodas finding trouble. Andreas Eigner ended up on his side, while Harry Rovanperä overshot this junction on the first stage. With Loeb over 2 minutes down on Gronholm, he was not going to risk anything. 8 points for second would keep his driver championship challenge going along very nicely. So the only issue to be decided in the Olympic Stadium was the battle for fifth between Henning Solberg and Dani Sordo, who were separated by less than 4 seconds. Solberg handicapped himself when he had a problem with his launch control at the start. Sordo thought he had got it, but co-driver Mark Marty then revealed the truth. There was late drama for Mikko Hirvonen. He arrived at the stadium with only second gear, but made it across the line to the relief of fourth team boss Malcolm Wilson. And relief was quickly followed by celebration, as Marcus Gronholm had finally been able to combine his speed on gravel with car reliability and get the better of Sebastian Loeb.
Acropolis Rally's always been great for Ford, and you've just continued that on.
Yeah, it's my first time with a Ford here, and my first win here, so good day.
Is it a relief now to get that win after the problems that you've had when leading after day one on so many times?
Yeah, of course it is, and only shame is that Sebastian is too far in the championship points, but what can we do?
Outside the top 3, Tony Gardemeister came home in 4th in what was only his second outing of the season, while Petter Solberg returned under the restart rules to take 7th. Marcus Gronholm inched closer to Loeb in the Drivers' Championship, but at the midway point in the season, his lead is still a commanding 29 points. Dani Sordo occupies 3rd place. Kronos Citroën still lead in the Manufacturers' Championship, but those 2 podium finishes mean Ford reduced the gap to 15 points.
Rally Deutschland has a well-earned reputation for being no ordinary tarmac rally, and Petter Solberg found trouble as early as shakedown. His car would need a major overnight rebuild to get him to the start. But despite some early speed, the Norwegian was never happy with the new setup, and a blown engine would force him to retire on day 2. But Sebastian Loeb and Dani Sordo were more than happy with the setup of their Citroën Zaras. They dominated day 1, Loeb winning 5 stages and Sordo winning the remaining 3. The speed of the 2 Citroën men is in no doubt, but they also outdid their rivals tactically, getting their tyre choices correct in the mixture of wet and dry stages. If Citroën had set their stall out, from early on Ford suggested they may be in for a difficult weekend. This is Marcus Gronholm on stage 1. And this collision was quickly followed by this impact with the Armco. Now here's Mikko Hirvonen following Gronholm through the stage. He hit that same armco and followed that by misjudging this handbrake turn. Jari-Matti Latvala in the Stobart VK Ford Focus would also want to forget stage one. He would have to retire, and elsewhere emotions were also running high. Chevy Pon's co-driver, Carlos Del Barrio, makes a mistake in the pace notes on stage 4. Pons obviously not happy, and soon after he had more to complain about.
Thank you.
He may have collected enough vines to make a crate of wine, but that would be no consolation to the Spaniard. Day 2 around the Panzerplatte stages is normally where all the incidents are in Germany, but with the roads dry, they were uncharacteristically kind to the cars. But wet or dry, the Citroens were still dominating. Loeb and Sordo consolidated their top 2 places, while Tony Gardemeister in the privately entered Zara had moved up to 3rd. This was only the 3rd outing of the season for the Finn, but he was looking to show that he still has what it takes by repeating his 3rd place finish in Monte Carlo. But Marcus Gronholm was looking to spoil Gardemeister's party, and by the end of the day he held 3rd, but was having to fight all the way. With Hirvonen moving up to 5th, this was a much better day in the field for Ford. And it was turning out to be one of Skoda's better days as well. Privateer Jan Kopecky took 2 stage wins in the Fabia. While Andreas Eigner was having his best drive in the WRC so far, he would eventually finish 6th.
Jump 145.
But this rally was all about Citroën. Dani Sordo had shown again that on the tarmac at least, he is the heir apparent to his senior teammate Loeb. But in 2006, Loeb is still the master. This was his 5th straight Rally Deutschland win, equalling the feat achieved by Tommy Mäkinen in Rally Finland. And more importantly, it was also the 26th win of his career, equalling the all-time record of Carlos Sainz.
This record, for me, it's the most important in the World Championship. So to equal Carlos in this record is a very good moment, especially here in Germany with so many fans, and to win my 5th victory here is a great moment.
No Mikko Hirvonen on the final leaderboard. His good work over the last 2 days coming to nothing when a battery problem forced his retirement on the road section after the final stage. In the Drivers' Championship, Loeb's lead is now 33 points, while Tony Gardemeister's 3rd points finish in 3 starts puts him 7th. With Dani Sordo for the first time being nominated for manufacturer points, Kronos Citroën extend their lead in the Manufacturers' Championship to 23 points.
This is Rally Finland, the high-speed, bit-jumping bonanza. Five-time winner and local hero Marcus Gronholm was the hot favourite. And Sebastian Loeb was looking for that record-beating 27th WRC win, and this is one of the few events he hasn't won. He badly wants this one on his CV. But the Scandinavians were showing him the way. Marcus Gronholm, as expected, took an early lead. Mikko Hirvonen lives among these stages and used his local knowledge to put himself in 2nd. While Petter Solberg was in 3rd. But on stage 5, the Loeb fight back started. He moved up to second and was putting some pressure on Gronholm. And the Ford man was not entirely happy in the greasy day 1 conditions.
It was so sleepy, I mean. Hui, incredible.
Sweden's Daniel Carlson in the Mitsubishi found it slippier than most. The sun was out for the second leg for what is always one of the most spectacular days rallying of the year, the centrepiece being the on-Empoya stages. Mikko Hirvonen put in an early candidate for the biggest jump of the day, but Petter Solberg wouldn't see the big jumps.
Minus 6 left, minus, tightens 5 over crest, extra long, tightens early over crest, opens 40, cuts 5 left, minus long, keep in over.
He crashed out early on the first on-Empoya stage. 5th place, Dani Sordo admits he still has lots to learn on gravel and was having to draw on all he knows to keep Gigi Gali behind him. He had a cushion of just 1.8 seconds going into the second run through on-Empoya Lancy. Let's follow him through this classic section of the stage.
Derecha 8 cortamente, rasante derecha 7, salta poco 20, salta ya izquierda 5 poco lenta, 5 poco... Vaya hostia.
That put Gali safe in 5th, and with Petter Solberg out of the way, Henning Solberg had moved to 4th. And these two Peugeot drivers were providing some of the day's most spectacular action. Up in front, Loeb was still hanging on to Gronholm's coattails, waiting for the Finn to make a mistake, but fate would go against Loeb. A stage 12 rock causing a puncture, and with the Moose failing to activate properly, the Frenchman lost around 30 seconds, and that effectively handed the rally to Gronholm. Gronholm's knowledge of these roads is second to none, and with the pressure off, he set about enjoying himself. Ford's data showed that on one of the day 2 stages he remained in 6th gear for a full 2.5 kilometres, maintaining speeds of over 170 kilometres. This was to be his 6th Rally Finland win in 7 years.
It was no mistakes, nothing, and the car is perfect, so it was really a good rally for me and team.
And with Mikko Hirvonen coming home in 3rd, this was a good weekend for Ford. Gronholm edged a little closer to Loeb in the drivers' standings, while Hirvonen was making claims for Dani Sordo's 3rd position. And their performances in Finland mean the Ford team are closing on Kronos Citroën in the manufacturer's standings.
The opening ceremony left you in no doubt. This was Rally Japan. Sebastian Loeb has never won here, and with road sweeping an issue, it looked like he would have to give way to Marcus Gronholm. And Gronholm was the early pace setter. winning 5 of the first 6 stages in his Ford Focus. However, rain in the days leading up to the rally had made the stages wet, sticking the surface together and reducing the road sweeping effect. Loeb's road position wasn't such a disadvantage, and he was hanging on to Gronholm, but having to drive to his limit to do that. The wet weather had played havoc with the recce when the crews made their pace notes. And Petter Solberg was struggling with his pace notes.
6 right bus, opens over crest. 80. 6 right bus, half long.
This was compounded by a problem with his brake pads. Chris Atkinson was also having problems. He was carrying a 50-second penalty for being late out of service on day 1, but was still involved in a battle with Danny Sordo for 5th. He went past Sordo on the first stage of day 2 and then set his sights on the 4th place, held by Manfred Stoll. And the Australian was showing that he meant business. That was some recovery.
Chris, the car's a big mess. What happened?
I'm not sure how bad it looks. It's still driving okay. Just clipped a few small trees in the outside of a corner. Nothing bad.
You've lost the rear wing. It must be difficult to drive without any downforce.
I didn't notice that. I was wondering what was wrong at the end.
But whatever the condition of his car, the Australian was soon in front of Stoll and on his way to his best finish of the season so far. 3rd place Mikko Hirvonen wouldn't be troubled by Atkinson. He was well on his way to another podium finish. On the second day, Loeb had really started to pressurise Gronholm. Reducing his lead to just over 6 seconds on stage 13, Gronholm was feeling the heat, and so were his brakes.
I have to go to the brakes out. The brakes. There you go. Marcus Gronholm, as I was saying again, he's considered the seat.
And on stage 14, Gronholm folded.
Oikein miinus kirraa.
And this was followed by another spin on stage 15. He was suddenly nearly 30 seconds behind his French rival. It looked like Loeb was on his way to that record-beating 27th win. But Gronholm had nothing to lose, and on the final day he came out fighting. On stage 22 he took 4.5 seconds out of the Citroën driver and followed that with another 5.5 seconds on stage 24. Loeb was feeling the pinch.
You have to see if he is worried now when he's coming to the finish.
And by the end of stage 25, Loeb's lead was just 8.8 seconds. With the final stage, the short Orbit Hero Super Special, if Gronholm was going to snatch the victory, he had to do it on stage 26. And with just Loeb left to complete, Gronholm was the fastest and a massive 30 seconds quicker than the next man, Mikko Hirvonen. Here's Loeb nearing the end of the stage. And that is the time that he's got to beat if he's to stay ahead. The Ford team's reaction tells the story, and so did Loeb and Daniel Ellener's. They were on their way to that 27th win. And there are the statistics that confirm Loeb's record. It wasn't all good news for Citroën though. Danny Sordo excluded for failing to fasten his seatbelt properly after stopping on stage 26. And Sordo's exclusion means that Hirvonen, who finished 3rd in Japan, closes the gap on him in the Drivers' Championship. Loeb extends his lead at the top. Ford continue to close on Citroën in the Manufacturers' Championship.
Following on from Finland and Japan, it was obvious from early on that the Cyprus rally was going to be about another battle between Sebastian Loeb and Marcus Gronholm. And it was the man from Finland who took the early initiative. Gronholm won 3 of the first 4 stages to take a lead of just under 18 seconds over Loeb.
Vasen eri lyhyt ja vasen täys 9. Vasen nopea suppu.
But in the afternoon, Loeb showed that this would remain a two-way battle. Not for the first time, superior tyre choice helped him to get the upper hand. Over the afternoon stages, he reduced Gronholm's lead to just 6.4 seconds. The roads had been graded before the event, which had made the stages smoother and faster than previous years. But Loeb's bumper cam shows there was still plenty of trouble out there, and many were finding problems. Both works Skodas failed to make it to the second stage. Harry Rovanperä and Andreas Eigner suffering the same electrical failure. Petter Solberg had already had a problem with his brakes and an overheating engine before he was reduced to just second gear on stage 7. Henning Solberg went off the road when he was blinded by the sun on stage 8.
How long need it?
Tony Gardemeister had been as high as 3rd, but transmission failure on day 1, followed by a shredded tyre on day 2, dented his aspirations. The Finn would eventually recover to finish 5th on a leaderboard that, due to most cars having some kind of mechanical failure and many having to take advantage of the restart rule, was in a constant state of flux. This may have been the last WRC Cyprus rally, but it would leave us with the memory that this was one tough event. But Manfred Stoll was one who escaped any major problems. The OMV Peugeot driver advanced to 4th over the first 2 days. And Mikko Hirvonen was again adding to his reputation as the next big thing in the WRC. He too was staying out of trouble and on his way to another podium finish. Hirvonen is good, but he's not quite at the level of Loeb and Gronholm yet. And there was little to separate the 2 WRC heavyweights on day 2. Over the first 68 kilometres, their combined times differed by just 2.5 seconds. But, like in Japan, it would be Gronholm who would make the decisive mistake.
Oikein hidas. 3 vasen hidas reikä sisällä.